Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a story that just resonates so deeply through scripture and time. The life of Joseph, Jacob and Rachel's son.
That's right. His journey is incredibly rich, covering those 13 chapters in Genesis 37 through 50. It's quite something.
It really is. From being the favorite son, with that famous coat, to ending up as this incredibly powerful ruler in Egypt. The twists and turns are just, well, profound. Makes you think about purpose, definitely.
And that's really our hope for this deep dive, isn't it? To gently reflect on Joseph's life, not just the history, but to pull out the spiritual insights.
Yeah, see how it connects to us today.
Exactly. How his story shows us God's hand, moral strength, that kind of spiritual resilience. We want to uncover the practical truths there for you.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Joseph's early life. He's the favored one. That coat of many colors really signals that, doesn't it? A very visible sign of Jacob's preference.
It certainly does. And it stirs up trouble almost immediately. But then life just throws him this huge curveball.
Huge is an understatement. It's a brutal shift. He goes from favored son to, well, betrayed by his own brothers. Sold into slavery. And then, as if that weren't enough, falsely accused and thrown into prison. The level of injustice is staggering.
How do you even hold on to hope or yourself through something like that?
That's the core question, isn't it? And the scriptures are really clear. It wasn't just that God was with him, but how? Genesis 39:2 says, "And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, even as a slave."
Right, even in those terrible circumstances.
And Acts 7 echoes it. God was with him and delivered him out of all his afflictions. It teaches us something vital, I think. God's presence isn't just for the good times. It's right there, powerfully, intimately, in the absolute depths of our trials. It didn't, wave a magic wand and make the suffering disappear instantly.
No.
But it meant he wasn't alone. It changed the nature of his waiting, his imprisonment. God was constant, even when the path forward was completely dark. That idea is so important. God in the trial, not just rescuing from it later. Because often when things are really bad, you feel alone. Your feelings scream otherwise. But Joseph's story challenges that feeling, doesn't it? It asks us, can we see God as the anchor in the storm, not just the calm after?
Yes. It suggests those moments of brokenness, of waiting, aren't empty. They can be somehow filled with God's presence if we learn to look, to perceive it differently.
And that leads us to this bigger picture, right? The sense that it wasn't all just random bad luck.
Precisely. His long, hard journey, it starts to look like part of a much larger divinely guided plan. The evil his brothers intended, the suffering, it was being woven into something else.
Which brings us to that incredible statement Joseph makes later on. Genesis 50:20, it's just pivotal.
Absolute pivotal. You thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good. That right there is the essence of God's sovereignty in this story.
And Psalm 105 kind of backs this up too. He sent a man before them until his word came. So God's sovereignty means his ultimate control, even over the bad stuff.
It does. Not that he causes the evil, let's be clear, but he can work through it, redirecting human actions, even malicious ones, towards his own good purposes. It's like Romans 8.28 in action.
Working all things together for good.
For those who love him. And notice the timing. This wasn't quick. It highlights God's divine timing. Joseph is sold around 17, becomes vizier around 30.
13 years, that's a long wait.
A very long wait. Years of likely uncertainty and struggle. But God wasn't absent. He was working. Joseph's success wasn't luck. The text insists the Lord was with Joseph, preparing him, positioning him.
That really speaks to those times when we're waiting, doesn't it? When things feel stuck or unclear for us. It raises a question for you listening. Can you trust God's work even when his timing feels slow?
Can you trust that he's weaving good, even through difficulty, even when the pattern isn't clear yet? Joseph invites us into that kind of patient trust.
Yeah, surrendering our preferred timeline. Now, something else that just stands out is Joseph's character through all this. He doesn't seem to become bitter or compromised.
It's remarkable, isn't it? His integrity holds firm, even as a slave, even as a prisoner. In situations where you'd think, compromise would be understandable.
Especially with Potiphar's wife. He's in a foreign land. No one he knows is watching. It's a pressure cooker situation. What kept him grounded?
That's such a good point. It shows his integrity was internal, rooted in his relationship with God, not just external appearances. His moral purity shines through there in Genesis 39.
Right.
His response is key. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? His loyalty was clear. He literally ran away from the temptation.
He fled. Didn't even try to rationalize.
No. And then you see this character translate into incredible wisdom and leadership when he's actually elevated in Egypt. He governs with discernment, with compassion.
And his contributions were massive. Interpreter of dreams, economic strategist.
Exactly. Designing that whole food storage system that saved Egypt and his own family from famine. Genesis 41 details that brilliance.
But crucially, he gives the credit to God.
Always. Genesis 41.16, when Pharaoh asks about interpreting dreams, he says, "It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." Later, Genesis 50.2, again, he consistently points away from himself.
It's a powerful reminder for us. Our character gets forged in those tough times. And it's that integrity, maybe not perfection, but faithfulness that fuels real service and leadership, whether you're, running a country or just handling your daily life.
Faithfulness in the small things, preparing for the big things, absolutely.
Okay, so let's move to perhaps the most emotional part of the story, the reunion. Joseph face to face with the brothers who sold him.
Decades later, imagine the flood of emotions, the pain, the history.
It makes you pause and think, doesn't it? If you were Joseph after everything, what would your reaction be? Revenge? Justice?
It's hard to imagine not wanting some kind of retribution. But Joseph, his response is just an incredible display of forgiveness and grace.
He doesn't hold it against them.
He chooses not to. He weeps. He embraces them. He provides for them. Genesis 45 captures this stunning scene. He becomes this family reconciler.
And more than that, right? You called him a covenant preserver.
Yes, because by saving his family, he preserved the lineage through which God's promises would flow. The covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It might have died out in that famine without Joseph.
Wow. I hadn't quite thought of it in those terms.
And his forgiveness? It's not glossing over the past. He remembers the pain. You can see that in his interactions. But he chooses grace. He sees God's bigger purpose even in their evil actions.
So forgiveness isn't necessarily forgetting.
Not always. It's releasing the right to hold on to bitterness, the right to retaliate. It's choosing restoration over revenge.
That's such a powerful model for us, choosing grace, especially when wounds are deep, maybe in our own families or communities. It offers a path to real healing.
It really does. And then, layered on top of all this personal drama and divine providence, there's this deeper theological echo. Joseph's life points beyond itself.
You mean as a type of Christ?
Exactly. His life remarkably foreshadows Jesus in so many ways. It's like a preview woven into the Old Testament.
Okay, let's trace some of those parallels. They're quite striking when you lay them out.
They really are. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers.
And Jesus by his own people. John 1:11 says, "He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him."
Joseph was sold for silver.
Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, Matthew 26.
Joseph was falsely accused, condemned, despite his innocence.
Just like Jesus faced false witnesses and condemnation, Mark 14 describes that.
Joseph suffered, was imprisoned, but then raised to a position of great power, becoming a savior for many.
And Jesus, after his suffering and death, was exalted. Philippians 2 says God gave him the name above all names.
And maybe one of the most beautiful parallels. Joseph provided physical bread during a famine.
And Jesus declared himself the bread of life, John 6.35, offering spiritual sustenance.
It's uncanny. As the commentator John Gill put it, Joseph is a clear type of Christ in suffering and exaltation. It's not just coincidence. It's God weaving his redemptive story through history.
Seeing those parallels gives such a sense of hope, doesn't it? It shows God's consistent plan unfolding across centuries, always pointing towards Jesus.
It really does. It connects the dots in a beautiful way.
So we've journeyed through Joseph's life, the suffering, the integrity, the forgiveness, the foreshadowing. What's the main thing we should take away for our lives right now? A practical application.
If we distill it down, I think one crucial application stands out. During trials, choose to trust God's unseen plan.
Trust the unseen plan.
Yeah. Think about Joseph's life between 17 and 30. 13 years of waiting, suffering, confusion. He couldn't see the end game.
No way he could have known how it would turn out.
Exactly. But God was working behind the scenes the whole time.
Yeah.
So for us, when our circumstances feel overwhelming, when things are unclear, when answers seem delayed, can we choose patience?
And we choose trust.
Can we lean into trust, believing that even if we can't see the purpose right now, God is still leaving his good plan? It's about letting go of our need for immediate answers and resting in his sovereignty.
That's a challenging but incredibly hopeful takeaway. Joseph's life really is like a blueprint, isn't it? For getting through hardship, leading well, forgiving deeply.
It truly is. It calls us to see God's presence not just in the breakthroughs, but in every single season.
May Joseph's story really be a source of hope for you listening. It's more than history. It shows God's plan unfolding through suffering.
Remember that. Trust his sovereignty, walk with integrity like Joseph did, and find the strength to extend forgiveness, even when it feels impossible. God's faithfulness was real for Joseph in the pit, and it's just as real for you.
So as you reflect on Joseph's journey this week, maybe ask yourself, what stands out most about God's faithfulness in his story? And how does that encourage you right where you are? May you find real strength and peace, knowing his unseen hand is always, always at work.